You're listening to The Sports Memory, part of the Sports Moments and Memories podcast with Craig Olson. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss a sports memory. One of our sponsors is Pemberton Law Firm. They serve you from locations in Fergus Falls, Wadena, Alexandria, Detroit Lakes, and online at pemlaw.com. Pemberton Law carries a legacy of trustworthy and reputable legal representation dating back to 1883. Also making this podcast possible is Lake Area Docks and Lifts. They offer premium waterfront equipment sales, service, and installation. Best quality and service at the best prices. Just ask your neighbor at the lake. That's Lake Area Docks and Lifts.
Mike Donaghue is the longest tenured coach in Fergus Falls boys hockey history, having completed his 20th year as head coach at the end of the 2023-2024 season. His 250 wins and 231 losses are far and away the most totals in each category. Donaghue, who played high school hockey in Bemidji and played collegiately for Bob Peters at Bemidji State University, became the Otters head coach in the 2004-2005 season after serving 2 years as an assistant to Tim Berglund. Coach Donaghue recalled how he wound up in Fergus Falls.
My first teaching job was down in Red Wing, and I taught for 2 years down there, and times of school budgets, they were cutting my position down to 80% position at that time, and I thought, well, I better find a full-time job. So Fergus Falls happened to have an opening and applied, and Fergus was going to the block schedule at that time at their school, and they were adding some positions. So applied, interviewed, ended up here, and spent the first 2 years with the JV under Tim Berglund was the head coach at that point, and he ended up moving on up to Thief, and I decided I would apply, and who would have thought 20 years later I'd still be sitting here, different rink, but same game.
So give the listeners here a little idea of your coaching philosophy or the style of hockey you'd like to put out on the ice.
I think kind of your background molds you a little bit. Growing up in Bemidji, I don't know how much more we need to expand on that. You play a couple of years of junior hockey and that style of hockey. 4 years at Bemidji State, getting to learn from Coach Peters, one of the iconic college hockey coaches. I should maybe revert back to my junior hockey coach, Steve Jensen, a 1976 Olympian. Then I worked for 30 years at his hockey camp as well. So, and then my first teaching job I mentioned was in Red Wing. So George Nemenich, who's a Hall of Fame coach down in Red Wing. So you get to learn and being around all those great people, trying to pick and see what works and what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, you just, I think, need kids that just show up and work. It's a game of work. It's a game of emotion, and being able to come out and try to consistently play at that high level, practice at that level to get you there for 51 minutes.
You have had some outstanding teams over the years, but also some outstanding competition. It's been very competitive in the sections that you've been involved in, the conferences you've been involved in. And I think back to the single class system and how great this section was at that time, that the Otters were in Section 8, all those tremendous teams and all. That was kind of a mini state tournament, it seemed. But year after year, you seem to just have such stiff competition, no matter what section it is or conference.
Well, I think that's the idea. You need to put a schedule together that will challenge your players if you're going to be prepared at the end of the season when you want to be having the most success. You hope that you've been challenged and put in difficult situations prior to that. With our environment, I think it's difficult to emulate that within a practice situation. So you're out there, you're trying to, right from the start of the year, what can we do for scrimmages? Where can we find some preseason scrimmages to start? You talk about some of those things. I remember scrimmaging War Road, and we're going up there, and there's Brock Nelson. You're trying to face off. How are we going to stop Brock Nelson? Somehow Austin Carr in the net. I think we pitched a shutout in a scrimmage up there. It was 1-0. We found a way to score a goal, and the guys are pretty thrilled. We got the puck out of our end, I think, 2 times, having to score on one of them, and it was in our end for the other 48 minutes, I think. But it was one of those great scrimmage opportunities that you look at, and you see some of those players that you talk about. The Prunovich kid from Hibbing, we're up in Thief scrimmaging, and watching the way that he sees the ice and analyzes the ice. Just watched him last week against the Minnesota Wild doing the same thing. So just some of those great players that you think about along the way. That's why you schedule some of those teams and subject the kids to that kind of talent.
You mentioned goaltending with Austin there. You've had some pretty good goalies, and really in recent years, I mean, Drew Looning, who had the win record, I think, for a couple of years before Ben Swanson came along and took it. But the Otters seem to have had some pretty strong goaltending over the course of most of your years.
Yeah, and those are, you talk about what do you learn over your tenure here. I remember when I first started, and people probably don't know, but my first assistant coach was the mayor, Ben Shire, another goalie legend, and it was important for me at that time as coming in as a non-Fergus person to I get some alumni on the staff and bring that pride and keep that pride around the program was really important. And then my second thing is we need a goalie coach, somebody that understands that position. You can take and you can study it, but I think like anything else, until you've been in those shoes, it's different to teach it, different to coach it. But even after that, it was, you've got the easiest job on the ice. Just stop the puck. All these other guys have to think and do some things. You just have one thing to worry about. You stay in that little cage and just stop the puck. And then you're transforming into now the first 20 to 30 minutes of every practice is just strict goalie focus, skill focus on the other players. So that's an area that you really need to emphasize. Unfortunately for that goalie, they win and lose a lot of different games for you. So you need to really prioritize and look at the youth level and what can we do to get our best athletes in the net. And furthermore, you need to convince the parents that it's a good place for that child to be in the net. That usually seems to be the more difficult sell.
So you mentioned Ben as one of your first assistants. Assistant coaches are so important, and you've worked with several of them through the years. And how important is that from a head coaching standpoint? To have assistant coaches around you that you can bounce ideas off and just get input from. Yeah,
absolutely. And they're hard to find. You don't want just yes men in there. That's for sure. Anytime you're trying to, whether it's coaching and business and life, like you surround yourself with good people, but not yes people that are willing to challenge you, people that want to bring ideas. They're passionate, and luckily I've been able to find some people like that. Mike Alt was an assistant for a great number of years. Did a tremendous job, very passionate about it. We've had some pretty epic discussions, I think, on what should work and what doesn't work, but at the end of the day, you're on the same page. After him, Tim Lill stepped in. He was a great youth coach for our program. And then the girls' job opened it up, and you look at the things that he's been able to bring the girls' program with his passion and excitement for the game and Otter hockey. And then we get into Trevor Larson's been here for a number of years, just loves the game, his rapport with those kids, and that's kind of, I think, something that you look at is you're still a head coach, and there's always going to be kind of, I think, that separation between that head coach and the players, no matter how hard you try with that. And those assistant coaches, your team captains, they're that great go-between between the rest of the team and the head coach.
One of Coach Donaghue's assistants in recent years was a former player and the Anderson Lake MVP for the Otters in 2016, Tostin Mann. Mann was an all-section 6A honorable mention selection his junior year when the Otters went 18-6-3. The following year, he was named the all-section 6A first team. Mann shared his thoughts about playing for Coach Donaghue.
It was an interesting experience as a sophomore coming in. You don't really know what to expect. I've heard different things from some older guys, but kind of go in and get your feet wet. And he knew what to expect from me. Like, he could push me in certain ways, and he did, and got the best out of me as a sophomore. Going into my next 2 years, it was more comfortable, a lot more fun and free. He got the most out of me for sure, so it was good.
Well, you had an outstanding high school career, defenseman. You knew how to use your body well, I think. You did have some injuries that kept you on the sidelines for a while. But talk about the style of hockey that you played. What made you so effective on the ice?
I like to push the pace from the back end, offensively, take care of my responsibilities in the D zone, and then get the puck out of our own end and go try to score. So I like to set up plays more than score, but if I got the opportunity to put it away, then I would try to, obviously. But yeah, I like to create offense from the back end for sure.
Your junior year, your team was 18-6-3, and you made it to the semis before your double overtime loss to Cathedral that year. What made that team so good, Tostin? Who were some of the guys that you played with that made that team the team they were?
So that was the group. So the seniors that year is the group that I pretty much grew up playing with. Ian Goose, Kyler Peterson, Andrew McFarland. Those guys were, I think, the three captains that year, and we were a really tight-knit group of guys and liked to have fun. The summer before, we hung out almost every day, did a lot of things away from the rink. Like, obviously on the rink we took care of business, but away from the rink is where you really grow that chemistry and become more of a team, and I think that showed. We were pretty skilled, obviously, too, but that chemistry on the ice and off the ice is what pushed us to be as good as we were.
Two of the most prolific scorers in recent years for the Otters were Mike DeBrito and Isaac Johnson. DeBrito is the fifth all-time leading scorer with 144 points, having led the Otters in scoring his sophomore and junior seasons. Johnson is in 13th place all-time with 114 points and led the team in scoring his junior season with 61 points, the fourth highest single-season point total in Otter history. DeBrito and Johnson were teammates on Otter teams that lost in the Section 6A finals in back-to-back years, falling to Little Falls 2-1 in double overtime in the 2020-2021 season, and losing to Alexandria 4-2 in the 2021-2022 season. Johnson talks about what made those teams so good.
Yeah, I think just the team aspect of like all the guys just so close, and my sophomore year and junior year, the fun we had together and the close games, and even during years like weird COVID years, being around each other, and that was just awesome.
Well, you had a 33-14 record your last 2 years, and you were 15-4 in your sophomore year when you made it to the finals and got beat by Little Falls in double overtime. That had to be the biggest heartbreaker that you've ever been involved in.
Yeah, that was a tough loss. We had such a great year going into that, and playing up in Little Falls, and came to double overtime, and they got a power play goal, and that really stung. But great memories with that group especially, and just fun year for sure.
So when you think of that game, and when it's an overtime game, it's tight all the way. I mean, there's so many bounces that, oh man, if only. What comes to mind of a shot or some play that just sticks in your mind that if that would have gone a different direction or taken a different bounce, we're winning that game?
Yeah, I think there was a couple instances. Carter Tilke had a very specific instance where he just would have scored on a normal breakaway or like a little mini breakaway, and he just didn't. But that's the sports that we play in hockey, especially with the bounces, and that just a memory that we all think about, and it's like it's any of us, like we all bounces, but as a group we kind of now we can laugh at it because it's we're just like, oh, that was a fun, good opportunity, and it's sports and we love it. But
so what made those two teams so good? Why were you so good? Did you have every facet of the game going?
I think, yeah, we just had a mature group, I would say, in terms of hockey. The year before, we were kind of building. We had a lot of young players, and as we got into my 2 years with a lot of success, we just had a group that had played a lot of hockey, and obviously Ben Swanson being in net for you really helps to bail you out if we're not having the best game, or he can steal games. So that was definitely a huge part. But I would just say that we played a complete game, like you said, a mature game.
You have coached some teams that have been on the verge of getting to state. 4 times you played in section championship games, 3 years in a row, and lost some really heartbreaking games. And teams that were great teams, but you also ran up against some pretty good teams in those years. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah, you need things to go right in those section games. You need the puck needs to bounce. You're probably going to have to get a call here or there, and that's the nature of the game. When you play in such good competitive sections, you're playing competitive teams. The dividing line is very thin in what it takes to win or lose. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to get over that hump yet, and we've had some unfortunate bounces, unfortunate breaks, whether it's been in a semifinal game or a final game. And on the other hand, we've run up against some really good teams in the section final. We look at the Little Falls team. I don't remember if they were undefeated or close to undefeated that year. You got Ben Hanowski leading the way. Hoey Baker scores his first NHL goal against the Minnesota Wild when he gets done with his career at St. Cloud State. And, just no matter what we tried to do that night, it was hard to stop Ben. I remember talking to Tony Kuchar, their head coach, and we ran a couple different penalty kill looks just to try to isolate Ben and get him, a little bit uncomfortable. And Tony said, "You guys did a great job." And we watched it, and all of a sudden Ben just got the puck and stood there, and he didn't really know what to do other than fire it in the back of the net. And that's right where that thing ended up, short side. And, Tony said we had him rattled, had him where we wanted, but great players find a way to come through.
So when you look back, what was first the most frustrating, disappointing, heartbreaking loss that you've coached, and what was the most satisfying, maybe surprise victory that you've been on the bench for?
Oh my, there's that's a couple of good questions, I think, when you think about that. The COVID year, I think, where we lost to Little Falls in double overtime, that one was definitely a real heartbreaker, where you think you're right there. We got all the right guys. We've got the personnel. We've got the experience. Suffered an unfortunate injury that game to Michael DeBrito that I think was a real difference in that hockey game. And I think when we look back at the amount of work that group of kids and the talent that we had on the ice, that one was, I think, definitely a heartbreaker to not be able to find a way to win that one. Satisfying wins. I don't know. We've had a couple really good battles with Warroad, I think, where we've been able to nip them and find a way to win some hockey games. I think that's that team and their storied franchise up there. So they're definitely rewarding wins. We have some great battles with Alec where we've been able to come back sometimes, where I think we have definitely been the underdog, and we've been able to find a way to squeak games out against them as well.
Here's Mike DeBrito talking about how those championship game losses still sting.
Well, it's actually kind of hard for me to still watch the state tournament just because knowing I was that close. And I mean, my junior year I got hurt in the second period, couldn't finish the game. And then senior year we had a goal called off to go up by 1 with like a minute left in the second period when we had all the momentum, and they came right back and scored to go up. So, I mean, it's hard to not think about that just because, that's what you've dreamed about since you were a little kid. But I mean, I think you just got to learn to turn the page a little bit and try and not think about it.
Recount that injury. What happened in that game that put you on the sidelines?
So we were on the power play, and there was a loose puck in the corner, and I went to go get it, and the Little Falls defenseman hit me from behind, and I mean, depends on who you ask. Most Fergus people would probably think that was an ejection-worthy hit, but like I said, just got to turn the page, and nothing you can do about it now. So
you mentioned Michael DeBrito. You've had some good offensive hockey players, good guys that can score the puck, create opportunities. I think of Isaac Johnson, who's led you a couple of years in scoring. I think back in the early years of your coaching, you had some guys, Cody Peck, I think, found a way to put the puck in the net pretty regularly. You've had some pretty good scorers over the years. Who stands out as, the guys that had the nose for the net, the most natural scoring ability?
Yeah, you talk about, well, and then maybe that reflects back to some of those satisfying wins you talk about. You bring up Cody Peck, and he played with Cody Koski. I remember a couple of games. One in particular, we went down to play St. Cloud Tech. It was Saturday morning at the National Hockey Center, the Olympic-size ice. I don't know, we were on the bus at 7 o'clock or whatever, and it was a reschedule. And I think Cody and Cody each had 5 or 6 points, and we won 6-2. And I just said, boys, we got to get on the bus and get out of here before something bad's going to happen. And that was one of those games where things just, whatever happened, everything was just clicking for us that night. And just different style teams, I think, when you talk about that. You think talk about Michael and Isaac. I thought we were a little more high-scoring teams where we could play a little more wide-open game. You back up a few years with Andrew McFarlane and Kyler Peterson and Alex Philippi. We were kind of the term they use now is probably a heavier team at that point, and had to grind out and find ways to score goals and compete and play a different style. And that's, I think, part of that fun and challenge of high school hockey. You're not out recruiting. We have our homegrown kids here in Fergus, and what do we need to do within our systems and within our hockey game to fit those kids and find them and find ways for them to be successful. Sometimes you got to grind it out and bang it out, and other years maybe we're winning 6-4 and creating a little more excitement.
Kellen Stenstrom had a couple of really good years for you the last 2 years, and he sure came on as a goal scorer for you and tied a record for most goals in a game, and just one of those guys that, again, is able to put the puck in the net.
Yeah, he was, and that's something I think we get into some situations where we can bring kids up early. He's one, brought him up as a 9th grader, and when you can really get that extra year development at high school is huge. All of a sudden, you're a 10th grader instead of a junior. And now that development, that learning curve, you look at just, I think the physical changes that the human body and those young men start to go through from 9th grade to 10th grade, 10th grade to 11th grade. Their body is developing, their muscles are developing, I think their lungs are developing. And a lot of those things you really start to notice their last 2 years. And you mentioned Kellen's success those 2 years. He played with some great players, kids that would go to the net for him. And that certainly helps your game as well.
You've had a lot of players over the years, recent years especially, go on and play junior hockey after their high school years were completed and have some success. You've got several playing now at different places. How satisfying is that, and is it surprising to you that we have so many kids going on, because it didn't always used to be that way?
Yeah, I think there's more opportunity now. There's some more junior leagues that have popped up. There's lots of teams and lots of opportunities for the kids, and I think that's a tribute to USA Hockey, Minnesota Hockey. You look at the growth of the game. Look at girls hockey as that's exploded, the number of hockey rinks that have put up due to the sheer need for ice time. So you throw all those things in a hat, and you're forced to grow the game and provide some more opportunities for the kids, and they're taking advantage of it. It's fun to see that they love the game. They want to keep playing. I could see where it would be easy to burn out. You have all the spring hockey, summer hockey, fall hockey, winter hockey. It's important to take that break, and where is that burnout point? But being able to continue to play the game, you're only young once, and I try to encourage these kids all the time. You got to keep playing. I was fortunate to be able to play as long as I did, and now I can continue to coach and give back in that way. And the other thing that I think as we look at that we have too is a number of people have come back and coached in our youth program. That's also, I think, a tribute to how they appreciate the game.
You now have year-round ice, and you have a nice workout area for your guys here. How much have those additions and improvements meant to the program as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. The Metro teams, there's lots of places that have been having this thing forever. When I first came, we'd meet at one of the tennis courts and run through some stick handling stuff, and there'd be 4 or 5 or 6 kids there, and trying to get them to understand that connection between the off ice and the on ice. And now that we're blessed with this facility that we're sitting in here, we're able to get on the ice 3 days a week. There's a lot of development, and the summer's so nice. You just slow things down, work a lot on just your skill development that you need to be able to play at the high school level, or the ones that want to go on. How can we help prepare them? You talk about the speed and agility and quickness part. That's, I think, every sport. You look at bigger, stronger, faster. The vision that Scott DeBrito had to help our program and envision this training center that we're able to hook up right onto the rink has been something that we've continued to work and evolve our program. And I think this year, last summer, we had a great off-ice training program. And I think when we look at our youth teams, that carried right over, I think, to their success and things that we need to continue to work on and expand. 250
career wins here at Fergus Falls. Mike, what does that number mean?
I don't know. It's one more than 249, one less. I haven't paid that close of attention, I guess. I don't know. You just hope that you can continue to show up and the kids show up and work hard and smile, and hopefully we can continue to have fun out there. And I know that I push them pretty hard, and I think that they have a lot to give, and you need to. It's part of your job to get that out of those kids, and even when they think they've given it all, they've got more in there. And they show that, I think, every single year, that once they think they're to that level, how can we continue to tap into their resources and get more out of those kids? And it's fun when they, Coach, I can do it. Coach, I got it. And then what's the next? Keep peeling the onion back.
How has the game changed the most since you played, and here you've been coaching for 20 years? In what areas have you seen the most changes?
I think you just look at the speed of the game when you sit there and just marvel at how fast these kids are now. I wouldn't be able to play now, but I think a lot of people say that. You would have trained differently as an athlete. These kids and the amount of training that they have and the resources. You look at social media, and I guess I can look at my son, and he's looking at Connor Bedard, and he's looking at how he's shooting pucks, and you're looking at different training and speed things, and these kids constantly have, I think, something at their fingertips that can get them to that next level, that, hey, I need to try this. And the coaches that are allowing some of that creativity and allow these things to happen on the ice, and then they're going into the off ice, they're sitting at home and they're handling a puck, or they're shooting pucks, that are doing some of these different things and training methods that they're seeing these elite athletes doing. And we have this facility right here. It's a great thing. Kid wants a key fob, they get a hold of the hockey director, and they can get a key fob to get into the training center, whatever they want. So just trying to keep up. You hate to keep up with the Joneses, but that Warroad rink is open all the time. The Roseos rink is open all the time. What little things can we do for our athletes to provide the opportunity if they want it?
First thing that comes to mind when I say Roger Johnson.
He's been my savior, I know, since the time I arrived, and he's been threatening, I think, to retire for the last 20 years I've been here. 18. I think he's been threatening me, but it's been kind of this year, I think, when he's taken a kind of a step back this year. But you sure miss him. I know he'd show up at my house at least weekly in the summer, and he'd have some kind of hockey things for me. When I first arrived, with his proximity to Alexandria, he was down there. He would scout a period of the JV game, so he had a JV scouting report. He scouted the popcorn at the concession stand, and then usually we could get a little varsity report, but it was getting late for him to get home. So, but just everything and the way that he cares about all these kids, and just what they would always do for Raj whenever he was at the rink, and that was always reciprocated, I think, with how he treated them. They knew how to treat Raj.
Roger Johnson has worn many hats with the Otters through his 6 decades with the boys hockey program, and has been a big part of the Donaghue years. One of his duties over the years has been that of equipment manager. He also received the Don Clark Award in 2016, recognizing his contributions to hockey.
You've kind of been the equipment manager for a long time.
57 years. And I got to know each piece of equipment personally. But it's so much easier now, because years ago, the kids didn't have their own Now they mostly have got most of their own stuff. The only thing we give them now are a travel bag, pants, and then a practice jersey, you know. But I can remember in the years past where kids didn't have their own stuff. In 2016, I got the Don Clark Award. And it kind of explains, I don't know if you've seen that.
No. The prestigious Don Clark Award is presented by Minnesota Hockey to an individual who, over a period of many years, has been dedicated to the grassroots growth and development of youth hockey in Minnesota. That sounds like you look up Roger Johnson in the dictionary, that's what it's going to say. You know, so I think this award was created with you in mind.
That was Dave Stegan that he worked for years, many, many years on Minnesota Hockey.
Yep.
He was on the board of directors, I think, but he's the one that nominated me. And, you know, the kids haven't really changed. They're just as good as ever. You know, better now skill-wise. But kids are good here. And I enjoyed every year. I really did.
I hope you enjoyed our trip through the years of Otter hockey history. Please check out the other 3 segments of our podcast, and thanks for checking us out. Thanks to Pemberton Law and Lake Area Docks and Lifts for their sponsorship of this project.